Over a week has now passed since the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls, Reem Al-Salem, publicly claimed there is no independent evidence that rape took place during the Hamas atrocities of October 7, 2023. Let me say that again. A UN official whose entire mandate is to combat violence against women used her platform to deny the sexual violence that occurred on the darkest day in the history of modern Israel. And what ramifications followed? Nothing. No apology, no correction, not even a tepid bureaucratic clarification. Silence. And with it, complicity. Imagine someone appointed to an international agency tasked with empowering all women and girls being so blinded by bias as to selectively deny the experiences of rape victims. Similarly, Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, has also repeatedly minimised or outright denied the rapes, again, without ramifications.
What's the need to talk about mass rapes? There is no evidence of rape.
So out of respect for history, truth, and the victims themselves, let's return to the facts. In March 2024, the UN itself, the very institution Al-Salem represents, released a report from the Secretary-General's Office on Sexual Violence in Conflict. And what did it find?
There are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence, including rape and gang rape, occurred during the 7th of October attacks in at least 3 locations, namely the Nova Music Festival site and its surroundings, Road 232, and Kibbutz Reim. And in most of these incidents, victims were first subjected to rape and then killed, and at least 2 incidents relate to the rape of women's corpses.
But remember, it took the UN almost 2 months before they even somewhat acknowledged the gender-based atrocities and sexual violence committed on October 7, and 4 months after the massacre to send a mission to verify the reports of conflict-related sexual violence. But by the end of 2023, even the New York Times had completed a 2-month independent investigation, screams without words, relying on videos, photos, GPS data, and more than 150 interviews with witnesses, soldiers, medical staff, and rape counsellors. Led by Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Jeffrey Gettleman, it concluded, the attacks against women were not isolated events, but part of a broader pattern of gender-based violence on October 7, identifying at least 7 locations where Israeli women and girls appear to have been sexually assaulted or mutilated. More recently, the Dinah Project report, published in June 2025 under Bar Ilan University, produced the most comprehensive record to date. Drawing on survivor testimonies, witness accounts, first responder reports, forensic evidence and audiovisual documentation, it found sexual violence was widespread, systematic and patterned across 6 locations. Women were found partially or fully naked, tied to trees or poles, raped, often gang raped, then executed. Genital mutilation and public humiliation were common. Sexual violence continued against hostages in captivity. Now, have there been challenges to these investigations? Absolutely. Many victims were murdered, permanently silenced. Others were too traumatised to speak. During the shock and confusion of October 7, there was no focus on semen collection and examining crime scenes. Israel was plunged into an immediate war. Bodies had to be identified and buried quickly under Jewish law, a final dignity after the ultimate violation. But we all saw the footage shared in real time across social media on October 7. Nama Levy, her pants soaked in blood. Shani Look, stripped, paraded lifeless on the back of a truck. Footage of a Hamas terrorist gripping a terrified young woman, marking her for rape. And the woman in the black dress, her body discarded on the roadside, legs open, underwear removed, face burned, her hands still covering her eyes. She was later identified as Gal Abdush, a mother of 2. Then came the testimonies of the living, what Agam Goldstein Almog witnessed.
האיבר שלו בכל מיני דרכים, והוא נגע גם באיבר שלה. היא אמרה לי שהיא פשוט לא הפסיקה לבכות, והוא פשוט לא הפסיק לעשות את מה שהוא עושה.
What Amit Susanna endured.
וחוץ מזה הייתה תקיפה מינית חמורה, תחת איומי אקדח, כאילו, זה מה שקרה שם.
And it wasn't just women. Even in the past 2 weeks, the accounts of male hostages, Ron Breslavsky and Guy Gilboa Dalal, described the cruel sexual violence they suffered in captivity.
שאני לא לובש כלום, כאילו, אני קרוע מת בלי אוכל. מתפלל, כאילו, לאלוהים, תוציא אותי מזה כבר. ואתה אומר, כאילו, מה נדפק?
הוא חיכך את איבר המין שלו בפי הטבעת שלי במשך כמה דקות. ואני ממש קפאתי, ואני לא ידעתי מה אני אעשה עם עצמי באותו רגע. הייתי על כיסא, עם עיניים קשורות, הוא כיסה לי את העיניים, הוא אומר לי, הרבה זמן לא ראית בנות, נכון? אתה צופה בפורנו, רוצה לצרות בפורנו, רוצה שנעשה אני ואתה סרט פורנו. הוא הגיע מאחוריי, הוא התחיל ממש לגעת בי ולנשק אותי בעורף, זה הכניס אותי לחרדות. כי אין לי לאיפה לברוח במצב שלי.
So let's be very clear. There is no doubt that widespread rape and sexual violence occurred on October 7 and afterwards. Even Hamas terrorists themselves have admitted it.
أحمد وحسن. بعدين احنا طلعنا. أنا طلعت قبل أبوي وحسن. طلعت أنا وأحمد.
ايوه بعد ما عرفت طلعت شو؟
طلعنا.
بيت شو؟
طلعنا من البيت.
بس هي دارت عايشة؟
لا أبوي قتلها.
بعد ما
هو قال لي بعد ما طلعنا إحنا قال لي قتلناها. طبعا طلعت لقيت مستوطن متخبي بالشجر.
So why is there still denial? Why is Jewish suffering endlessly minimised, dismissed or justified? Why must Jewish women meet a burden of proof no other victims are ever asked to meet? Why are UN officials allowed to falsely deny their experience without any consequence? Because when Reem Al-Salem, a supposed expert, discredits the accounts of sexual violence survivors, she isn't just wrong, she's inflicting harm. Sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes. Even the UN itself has stated the alarming figures of conflict-related sexual violence do not reflect the global scale and prevalence of these crimes. Shame, stigma, fear, fragmented memory and the terror of not being believed silence victims everywhere. So when a UN official leads with bias and demands an impossible standard of proof, she reinforces the very barriers that keep survivors in the shadows. She tells them exactly what abusers rely on. No one will believe you. We live in an era that says believe all women, but apparently it's me too, unless you're a Jew. And that should horrify anyone who claims to care about women, human rights, decency, or truth.